Hello? Okay. I'm going to start just talking without my PowerPoint so long, and then when it comes on, we'll catch up. So my name is Jessica Kotlowitz. Some of you might know me as the Green Dietitian. I am a registered dietitian, and I qualified back in 2012, actually, and I went vegan in 2014, and then I started the Green Dietitian. Most of you, I know your faces, so it's nice to be talking to a familiar audience today. How many of you are vegan already? Basically everyone. Okay, so I'm preaching to the converted here, and I think, how many of you feel like you know what you're doing with vegan nutrition? Cool. Okay. So we're going to run through it pretty quickly, and then I'll leave a lot of time at the end for questions. Just a little disclaimer before we start that this is for educational purposes only, and it's not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So if you have any symptoms, please see your doctor or dietitian. This is actually the Green Dietitian team. So there's 2 of us now since last year. Nadia joined the team, and she is the second Green Dietitian. She's also a vegan dietitian. So there's always one of us on duty, and there's always someone to help you and to see you. Okay, so I wanted to just go through this little infographic to give you an overview of what being a healthy vegan is all about. Obviously, some of it's to do with your diet. We want a really varied diet. We want to see lots of different nutrients, different types of fibers, different antioxidants, and usually we get this from eating a varied plant-based diet. We also want to supplement correctly, which I'll be talking quite a lot about, because we really want to prevent deficiencies. We don't want to wait to become deficient and then have to treat deficiencies. We always promote a healthy relationship with food at the Green Dietitian, which includes eating all the different vegan foods out there and being really flexible with your diet. And if you're vegan, you'll know that it can be quite isolating, so it's really important to have some social support. Okay. Since most of you are vegan already, you probably already know the health benefits of a vegan diet. But I wanted to just cover a few basic ones, which is that plant foods are actually an amazing source of certain nutrients. There's certain things that we only find in plant foods, like phytochemicals, fiber. Plant-based people are the only people in the population that actually get enough fiber. And plant foods have no cholesterol, and they're really low in saturated fat, so they're really good for your heart health. Okay, I love this infographic. So it's just like a little overview of what makes up a kind of balanced vegan diet, and it represents a plate. So you can see that about half your plate should be fruits and vegetables, about a quarter should be grains, about a quarter should be legumes or high protein foods, and then you want your nuts and seeds involved there too. And what I really like is that let me see if my laser pointer works. Not really. Okay, it highlights the calcium-rich foods in the middle from each food group. So we can see that we can get enough calcium from our diet if we focus on our calcium-rich foods enough. And then on the side there, it's got some other essentials, which are things that we might not get from our diet as vegans, and we might need to supplement or get from sunshine or get from fortified foods or whatever it is. So those are really the things that I'm going to be focusing on today. I'm going to be talking about the nutrients which people usually worry about on a plant-based diet or sometimes don't get enough of, or just the nutrients that need some extra attention. Okay, who's been asked where they get their protein from on a plant-based diet? Okay, so this is why I cover this topic, just because it's something that people get asked a lot. It's like a common misconception that you can't get enough protein from plant foods. Obviously you can, and it's pretty easy to do so. And obviously eating enough protein is important, and there are a lot of health benefits to eating enough protein. So I think what's important to know is that proteins are made up of amino acids, and we get essential and non-essential amino acids. So essential ones are the ones that we can't make ourselves, and we need to get those from food. And the non-essential ones are the ones we make in our body. So those that we need to get from food, we need to make sure we eating enough of those. And there is this misconception that plant foods don't have enough of all the essential amino acids. This is not true. Plant foods do have them. And generally speaking, if you eat a balanced plant-based diet, you get enough of all of your essential amino acids. So the one that I want to focus on is called lysine. Lysine is an essential amino acid, and it's generally found in low amounts in things like grains, vegetables, and nuts. So if we eat a plant-based diet and we just eat grains, vegetables, and nuts, and we don't eat other food groups, we might not get enough lysine. I'm going to show you some lysine-rich foods over here. So generally speaking, our beans, our legumes, our soy products, those are lysine-rich foods. And generally speaking, we need about 3 servings a day of these lysine-rich, protein-rich foods. So you can see the little infographic at the bottom is showing you that, like, if you have protein powder at breakfast and I guess a veggie burger at lunch and some, lentils at supper, then generally you would get enough lysine and enough protein for the day. So that's how easy it is. Just aim for a protein-rich or lysine-rich food at every meal, 3 times a day. Okay, let's actually... Are there any questions about protein before we move on to the next nutrient? Yes? Sorry? If they're tinned, baked beans, you don't need to rinse them, no, unless you don't want to eat the sauce. But I think the sauce is nice, so okay. Okay, let's talk about vitamin B12. So this is one that's really important to me as a dietitian, because it is the one essential nutrient that we don't get naturally in plant food. So it's the one that we do recommend supplementing if you are vegan or plant-based. And basically, yeah, the dosage and the amount that we supplement is really important, which I'll talk to you a little bit about. But we can get small amounts of vitamin B12 in fortified foods. So that's when we take like soy milk or breakfast cereals and we add some B12 to them. Usually this isn't enough though to cover our daily needs. So usually we do need a supplement. And then you might hear, has anyone heard that like spirulina has B12 or tempeh or mushrooms? There's people nodding. Okay. So that's also a common misconception, is that there are certain plant foods that naturally contain B12. These plant foods actually contain something called B12 analogs, which are molecules that look like B12. They don't act like B12 in the body, and they can actually block B12 absorption. So that means that if we eat, I don't know, spirulina every day, even if we take B12 supplements, if we take them quite close together, we might not be absorbing our B12. Yeah. And then something I always recommend for patients is when you're choosing a B12 supplement to look for a cyanocobalamin supplement. Cyanocobalamin is a form of vitamin B12 that you get in supplements. Another popular form is methylcobalamin, which we don't recommend because it's not as well studied and not as reliable generally. Okay, so you can see the first table. These are just some vegan sources of vitamin B12. These are fortified foods. So this is where they add vitamin B12 to foods like ProNutro or Marmite or whatever it is. Adults need 2.4 to 4 micrograms daily of vitamin B12. So you can see that these foods don't really meet our daily doses. And if you want them to meet your daily doses, then you would have to eat them a few times a day, right? Okay, and then in addition to that, we do have to consider that what we consume in terms of B12 isn't always what we absorb. So if we consume 2.4 micrograms, we don't usually absorb that full amount. We usually absorb about 1 microgram at a time. So even if you do, I don't know, take in the full amount through maize meal or ProNutra or something like that, it might not ensure that you're meeting your B12 needs. And then I've included some supplements in the next table. Those are like the supplements we generally recommend that are available in South Africa for vegans. A lot of them are really cost effective and you just need to take them 3 times a week. So it's a really easy way to get your B12 in. Okay, before we move on to iron, questions about B12? Yes.
I'll bring the mic to you. Hold on, everybody can hear you. Here you go.
I've also heard that nutritional yeast has vitamin B12. Is that yay or nay?
So nutritional yeast can be fortified with B12. It isn't always fortified with B12, so it depends on the brand. And in South Africa, I find it's not commonly fortified. So don't just assume that your nutritional yeast has B12.
Next question at the back here.
Hi. I know that sometimes with supplements you can overdose. So what is the limit of amount of B12 you should take in your supplements? Sometimes I've taken a B12 supplement that is also lower in dosage, like 100. So I'll take like 4 at once. One of those that you put under the tongue.
Yeah.
So what, how do you know when you should stop?
So B12 is generally a really safe nutrient. There isn't a lot of concern around overdosing because generally we weed out. So it comes out in our urine when we take too much. And we don't store it very well. So even if you're taking high doses every day, chances are you won't overdose. Like if you think about our daily doses, our daily need is 4 microgram. When you take 1,000 micrograms, you don't absorb all of that. You only absorb about 1%. So you absorb 10 micrograms. So then that's maybe 2 times your daily dose. That's why you can get away with 3 times a week. But I take 1,000 micrograms every day, no problem. I'm not scared to do too much B12.
What happens when you overdose on vitamins? You call
It
the paramedic.
depends which ones. There's certain vitamin, like you can overdose on iron and that can be really dangerous. It can be really toxic. But there's others that don't do too much.
All right, here's one more question over here.
Hi there.
Hi.
How do you know, what are the symptoms of a B12 deficiency?
It's a good question. So okay, let me say that B12 affects we use B12 to make our red blood cells. So red blood cells carry oxygen around the body. So if your B12 is low, often you get tired. Or similar symptoms to anemia, so like breathlessness and feeling weak, fainting, those sorts of things. And then B12 is also needed for our nerves to function. So when B12 deficiency goes on for a long time, I'm talking about like 10 years, people get like numbness or tingling in their hands and feet. And that can be a B12 deficiency too. But often people don't have noticeable symptoms because, I mean, we all feel tired, right? So if you're just tired from life, you don't always know that it's a B12 deficiency.
Could also just feel tired from being a parent.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Yep, there's one more.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
I was just thinking now as we were talking, you can get the vitamin B12 shot.
Yes.
Can you get that in different dosages? And if you got that, how long would it be until you'd need another one if you don't take any supplements?
I'm going to refer to the doctor over here. Do we get B12 shots in different dosages? Is a microgram. Okay. And it's once a month, right? As a maintenance.
You know what? Hold on. I think let's all hear you. Here you go.
Okay. I just want to make it clear. So, like, as dietitians, this is not our realm. Like, we don't give injections, we don't administer injections, and we don't know how to dose them. So, doctors.
Yeah. So we do get injectable B12. We typically do 1,000 milligrams at a time, because, as you said, it is water soluble. We can't just shoot you up with a bunch of vitamin B and hope that we've done the trick. So we do have to repeat it at varying frequencies. We usually do it every second day for the first week. Then we do every week for the first month, and then we do monthly until we get to 6 months.
Yeah. So as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but if someone's vegan and they're not deficient, then just a once a month is sufficient to maintain your levels, right? Okay. Cool.
Do you want to continue or take more questions? We continue.
I mean, we're done with B12. Oh, one more.
All right, hold on.
Can B12 and iron affect each other? Because I know you can be iron deficient, you can be B12 deficient, but they seem to have the same like blood carry hemoglobin.
I know what you're saying. No, they're separate nutrients. They have like a similar role. So people get confused because you can be anemic from a B12 deficiency, or you can be anemic from an iron deficiency or a folate deficiency. So some people, when they're anemic, they're like, well, let me just take B12 and iron, and they don't actually check which one they're deficient in or which one they need. And it could be both, but usually it's one or the other. So they don't interact with each other, and they don't have the same role to play in the body.
Okay, I think carry on,
Okay,
and then we'll
let's
take
carry
more
on.
questions towards the end.
Okay, iron, this is another hot topic, of course. And yeah, we all know iron's really important. Generally, people believe that you only get iron from meat, right? But we actually get plenty of iron from plant foods, which I'm going to show you in a second. And vegans don't have a high risk of iron deficiency than non-vegans. And what we know from research is that vegans can meet their iron requirements by eating plant-based foods. So the reason I like to talk about iron is just iron deficiency is extremely common, and women of reproductive age are especially susceptible to iron deficiency. So if you are a woman of reproductive age, you need to be watching your iron intake and maybe checking your iron levels. So what's important to know is that on a plant-based diet, certain things enhance iron absorption and certain things inhibit iron absorption, and we need to pay attention to those. So when you're eating your iron-rich foods, if you eat them with something acidic or something rich in vitamin C, it helps your iron to absorb better. If you have tannins from tea or coffee or red wine with your meals, or calcium supplements, that actually inhibits your iron absorption. I've actually lately been seeing a lot of people who drink tea or coffee all day, like the whole day, and they do tend to struggle more with iron deficiency. Yes.
Here we go.
Just a quick one on the coffee and tea. How long should you wait between having, because I mean it's the best thing in the world to have your tea with breakfast.
I don't have a positive answer for you. So generally we want the coffee or tea to empty out of our stomach before we add iron-rich foods or supplements. So if you have coffee or tea on an empty stomach, it's usually about an hour. So you could have it in the morning and then wait an hour and have breakfast. If you've eaten and you have coffee or tea, it's going to take 3 hours for solid foods to empty. So if you've eaten breakfast and you want to now have tea, you should wait 3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. Very sad news if you love coffee and tea. Okay, so these are just some vegan iron sources. Usually our iron sources are our beans, our legumes, our soy products, nuts and seeds, dark green leafy vegetables. And you can see men need 8 milligrams of iron a day. Women need 18 milligrams, more than double what men need. That's to account for menstrual losses, so menstruating women. And that's equivalent to around 5 servings of iron-rich food. So 5 servings of like beans or legumes or soy products or dark green leafy vegetables or dark chocolate. So if you can incorporate 5 servings a day, which is not that difficult if you think about you have 1 or 2 servings per meal. Maybe you have a serving at a snack and then you've got your iron in for the day. Does anyone want to ask anything about iron while we're here? No. Okay. Calcium. So we all know that calcium is this mineral that makes up our bones. A lot of people ask me to test their calcium levels. There's no point really in checking calcium in your blood because it doesn't tell you anything about the calcium levels in your bones. So usually we don't get like a calcium deficiency that's obvious where we're fainting or getting anemic or something like that. But what happens is over years and years and years, if you're not eating enough calcium, it starts to affect your bone health. So it's really like a silent deficiency in a way because it's something you'll only know about when you're 50 or 60 years old. So basically, I think when most people think about calcium, they think about dairy products and they think that's, where people get their calcium from. But there are a lot of non-dairy sources of calcium, which I'm going to show you. And it's really possible to get enough calcium on a vegan diet and to get enough without dairy. Okay, so we need about 1,000 milligrams of calcium a day. And these are some of our high calcium plant foods. Generally, certain nuts and seeds, our fortified plant milks, our dark green leafy vegetables, those are good sources of calcium. So generally, if we eat 3 servings of these high calcium foods a day, we can meet our calcium needs. An easy way to get more calcium in on a plant-based diet is to choose a calcium-fortified plant milk. So if you look at the label on your plant milks, you want to know that there's calcium being added to it. And that can easily meet 1/3 of your calcium for the day. Questions on calcium? Yeah.
Testing, there we go. You can tell me if it's a common misconception, but women, especially, let's say 30 and on, do tend to have a higher chance of having a calcium, or should have more calcium in their diets.
Yeah.
Is that correct? And is it more common in women than in men?
It's more common to see osteoporosis, which is like low bone density in women. And that's not necessarily because women need more calcium. It's to do with like hormonal things, like when women go through menopause, they're more at risk of osteoporosis. Pregnancy and breastfeeding uses a lot of calcium, so could be because women have like a reproductive life. And then women are generally smaller, so actually what really is important for bone health is weight on the bones. So if you think about that, women weigh less than men. When they're moving through life, there's less weight on their bones. So for women, strength training is important to support bone health, whatever type of strength training you enjoy. And yeah, also though the daily needs for calcium for men and women are the same. So it's more to do with lifestyle factors and metabolic factors that put women at more risk. Yeah. Okay. Vitamin D. So vitamin D is actually known as our sunshine vitamin because we don't get much of it from food. We don't find a lot of it in foods, and we naturally have always, I guess as humans, got most of our vitamin D through sunlight. So we generally need about 20 minutes of direct UV exposure on the skin every day to get enough vitamin D, and that means not wearing sunscreen, not wearing clothes, hats, all those things, and having a day where there's a high UV index, so a really nice sunny day. But we also have to weigh that up with the risk of like skin cancer and how it's not always healthy to get our skin burnt and be in the sun that much. So most people, I would say in urban environments, like who live in cities, do need a bit of a vitamin D supplement, vegan or not. Yeah, vitamin D deficiency is really, really common, even in Cape Town. So there are some vegan sources of vitamin D. Some of our foods are vitamin D fortified, so vitamin D is added to the food. We need about 1,000 IUs of vitamin D per day, so I guess certain soy milks can give you a daily dose if you have a cup a day. And another fun little thing is that if you put your mushrooms in the sun, they actually make vitamin D just like our skin does. So yeah, we don't really... I don't know if anyone would really eat like a cup of mushrooms every day that they've put in the sun, but it's something you can do once in a while. So if you do need a vitamin D supplement, I've just included some examples of options in South Africa, and some of them, again, are really cost effective and you only need like one a week. Okay, let's talk about vitamin D if you have any questions. Nothing. Awesome. Okay. Omega-3, everyone knows about omega-3 and everyone thinks of omega-3 as like fish, right? But there obviously are plant sources of omega-3, which I will show you over here. So these are our main plant-based sources of omega-3. These give us a type of omega-3 called ALA. And you can see in the little chart there, you can see that ALA becomes DHA. So it actually gets converted into DHA in the body. And DHA is the thing in fish oil that everyone talks about that's good for your brain and your heart and all those things. So we do need DHA and ALA. Our bodies can make DHA from eating ALA-rich foods. That being said, though, we don't really know exactly how much every single person makes from eating their ALA-rich foods. We don't know how religiously people eat these things. So if you do want to be sure, then you could always take a DHA supplement. You get vegan ones that are made from algae oil. But in the meanwhile, for everyone, you really want to be eating your one serving a day of ALA-rich plant foods, which is like just a tablespoon of chia seeds or flax seeds, or a teaspoon of flaxseed oil. It's really easy. Are there questions about omega-3? Cool. Okay, iodine. Who's heard of this one? Oh, I'm impressed. This is like a lesser known one. But iodine is really important for thyroid function. So it's actually a mineral that our thyroids use to make thyroid hormone. And it's naturally found in soil, but many soils are iodine depleted. So in South Africa, our soil is actually iodine depleted. And because of that, the government mandated that they add iodine to all salt for human consumption. So we're really lucky over here. All we have to do is eat a bit of salt every day, which no one really struggles too much with. So a quarter teaspoon a day is your iodine intake for the day. Usually we don't need supplements as vegans for iodine. If you are salt-free for some reason, or you avoid iodated salt, then you could add in an iodine supplement or a multivitamin that has iodine. Sea vegetables are also a good source of iodine. I'm going to show you over here. So 1 sheet of nori, which is that stuff that we use to make sushi, is pretty much your iodine for the day. So if you have like a platter of sushi, that might be your iodine needs for the week. So don't overdo the seaweed. Don't eat nori chips every single day, because that might be a bit too much iodine, especially on top of salt intake. Okay. Any questions about iodine? Yeah.
Hold on, here you go.
Is there iodine in Himalayan salt?
That's a good question, and I don't know the answer. Because the truth is, so the legislation says that all salt for human consumption, so if it's sold to be fed to humans, not to be used in like industrial processes, it has to have iodine in South Africa. And this isn't well regulated, like no one's checking on it. So I would say that if it's salt that's sold through like a small health shop or someone's making at home, we don't know if they're really adding iodine. We don't know if they're even aware of the legislation. So I can't answer you on that one, but I would think that big retailers are going to sell salt that is iodated, I would hope. Personally, I just buy sea salt that says iodated, because I know if it says it's iodated and I want to be sure. Yeah. Okay. Zinc. Yeah. Basically, zinc is an important nutrient. It's one we also don't often talk about or think about on a plant-based diet. It's actually especially important for men. They need more zinc than women. So men need 11 milligrams a day, women need 8 milligrams a day. And generally, our oats, peanut butter, cashews, so like our nuts and seeds and grains, are high in zinc. So generally, if we eat a balanced plant-based diet with a lot of like whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, and we eat enough food, we should get enough zinc. We don't necessarily need supplements for it. And yeah, that's all there is to say about zinc. It's a straightforward one. Any questions about it? No? Cool. Okay, that's all from me. That's like your vegan 101. So if you are going vegan or you are vegan, these are just the things you need to know that you need to ensure you're getting enough of, or supplementing, or getting enough through your diet. Obviously, if you want to talk more, you can always come for a consult. And yeah, I'm open to any questions.
Jessica Kotlowitz, any questions for her before we wind down and prep for our next one? Here's one.
Thanks so much. We learned a lot. I have 2 questions for you. The first one is there any easy hack that you can use to add iron to what you make in your kitchen? And the second one is just on the omega-3. So there's a lot of like stuff out there on the internet talking about omega-3 and omega-6 and ratios, and what is the truth behind that?
Do you know the answers to these? Okay. Okay, so iron, there are some easy hacks for adding iron to your food. You can cook in cast iron cookware. So like in South Africa, our potjie pots are cast iron. We want uncoated cast iron, not like the Le Creuset type of cast iron. And that adds iron to your food during cooking. Or you get these little things called lucky iron fish, which you can buy through me. And they're basically a little cast iron fish, which you can add into your pots during cooking, and they add iron to your food. And that's really useful if you're not going to go and buy a whole set of cast iron cookware, or you just prefer not using cast iron cookware. What's also cool with the lucky iron fish is you can boil your fish in water and then drink iron-rich water through the day to get extra iron in. So that's your first question. And then omega-3 and 6. So there's this whole thing about omega-3 and 6 ratios, and some people say you shouldn't have too much omega-6 and you should make sure you have enough like omega-3 to omega-6. And the reason they say that is because omega-3 is an anti-inflammatory fatty acid, and omega-6 is a pro-inflammatory fatty acid, and both, inflammation has a role, so pro-inflammatory nutrients are still important, but doing too much omega-6 and too little omega-3 could mean that you have more inflammation in your body. And usually we want the ratio of these two to be like 16:1 maximum, so like 16 times the omega-6 to omega-3. So we are supposed to get more omega-6 in our diet than omega-3, but we don't want all our fats coming from omega-6 and none coming from omega-3. And I think for people with inflammatory conditions, these types of things are more important to discuss.
Jessica, thank you very, very much. We got one question over there. All right. This is obviously 2 questions. Getting to you, sir.
I don't quite know how to ask this question, but my mom is currently going through menopause, and she's asked the question of like, could diet play a role in managing some of her symptoms, so to speak? I just wanted to know if you've come across that, if you know what the research is out there.
It's such a tricky question because to some extent, these symptoms are normal. It's kind of like I always say to my patients, like, if you get bad PMS, it's like saying, well, is there anything I can do diet-wise to help my PMS? Like, some people just get worse PMS than others, and some people get worse menopausal symptoms than others. And it's not necessarily anything to do with like your health or your lifestyle, but obviously sometimes healthy eating can help. Sometimes phytosterols, which are like usually found in soy products, can help to ease menopausal symptoms. So eating more soy products in your diet or taking phytosterol supplements, and that's pretty much, and some exercise, some movement.
There was actually a talk this morning by Marianne Shearer where she touches on menopause, and that talk was titled Natural Hormonal Health, and if you can track some of that information down, it might be helpful. Yes, sir.
Just want to know, Is it necessary or advantageous to use zinc supplements for men over a particular age for prostate health?
Not that I know of. So the reason men have higher zinc needs is that sperm production requires zinc. And I don't think it's got much to do with prostate health as far as I know. But also what I always say when it comes to nutrients and supplements is supplements don't really have a role, like more is not better. So getting more zinc than what you need is not going to make you healthier. So all you have to do is meet your zinc needs every day. And if you're doing that through diet, then I don't think supplements are going to have any additional benefit for you.
And this has to be the last question. Yes, sir.
Aye.
So say my diet consists mostly of raw vegetables and fruits. So how much do I need to take to meet my daily requirements?
For which nutrient?
For my overall nutrients and minerals, like.
Probably a lot. So you eat like a raw vegan diet?
Yeah. So.
I mean, it's obviously possible to meet nutrient needs. So like, for example, you have nuts and seeds to meet your zinc and your iron needs. You have dark green leafy veg to meet iron needs. You can eat nori and seaweed and things like that. But I think maybe you would just need to pay more attention to how much of those things you eat, right? Do you eat sprouts? Sprouts are legumes, so then you get your lysine. So it's hard to say like, oh, eat this much, but like, because I'd have to calculate that for you, but you would still want to eat your 3 servings a day of lysine-rich plant foods, which might be from sprouts, and you would still want to eat enough dark green leafy vegetables, which you probably eat more than vegans eating cooked food. So you can definitely meet your nutrient needs. It might just be like a little bit more like planning and attention.
Do you feel healthy though? Do you feel healthy though? Well, you look healthy. I think you're fine. Yeah, I think from the looks of it, I think you're fine. I don't think you've got anything to worry about. Can I have a round of applause for Jessica, please,
Thank
everybody?
you.
Well done. I'm sure she's open to any more questions once
I'll
she's off
hang
the
around.
stage. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, everybody. Our next